Okay, so I'd like to talk to you a little bit about role models. They're fuming me and making it harder for me to speak, but let's see what happens. All right, first of all, ever since I was little in the 80s, they were talking about how people needed role models in their life. They said one of the things that they commonly come across is kids, especially disenfranchised children, don't have good role models. So white society had basically told on itself where the celebrities they presented and the basketball players who accepted the kind of social norm boundaries of America weren't doing enough as role models to lead the kids in a positive direction. Things got much worse than that, and not just Trump. Everybody in the news is basically on TV. Horrible, horrible people, bad role models. Obviously, people just acting, people who don't have true heart. They're just putting on a show, and that's part of why they changed my voice and my image. They try to make it seem like I'm doing their propaganda stuff. Talking like, oh, yes, and we will do it this way, and, kind of thing. And it had a very negative effect, and it has a very negative effect on society. So we look at the instance of women, right? There was one case in the news a while back where there was an Indian woman or something like this. She was something like that, right? And she was sleeping with her boss, she was an intern. He was a politician or something. And he was a kind of nerdy guy mixed with a ruthless businessman, very common kind of politician. It's a very bureaucrat, politician type of person. And he was calling her slave and so on and so forth. And eventually, she outed him for it or whatever because the political climate and allowed for it. And it was some kind of political ploy to expose this guy. And you could tell that that her story was true. And there's dirt on that. There's dirt like that on tons and tons of people. They just chose to throw this guy under the bus. And it goes back to say, why would this gorgeous kind of colored woman date this kind of evil, this particular white guy who is an evil and ugly white guy? Why would she do that? Why would she throw, say, me under the bus and date this guy? Okay, it has to do with bad role models. It has to do with judgment. So when they say, hey, they don't want people to look up to me, they want people to look up to Elon Musk and Bezos and Trump, okay, and politicians and rock stars and Marilyn Manson and rap stars and Nas X and Nicki Minaj and so on and so forth. And look at the horrible, horrible effect it has had. And these Freemasons and these guys in social clubs, okay, a lot of these guys in social clubs, they love pretending that they're the exception to the rule. So do politicians. Politicians in social clubs and corporate groups have that in common. They're like, we are quite civilized, and there's all these crazy liberals everywhere, or all these, and they pretend that everyone else, everyone else, they're fuming me. They pretend that everyone else is sick and disorderly and illogical, and they who are the main people who planned for it to be this way, so they can argue that the contrast means that you should follow them, okay, are the pinnacle of order and sanity. So poor leadership, including family leadership, right? Who raises a daughter to shun the top martial artist ever and Christ in America? America, where Martin Luther King was assassinated, Malcolm X, the Black Panthers. Okay, one of the first things you learn as American is why as a female should be kind of flogged to death or something, so to speak, if she rejects Christ. If she rejects Christ because he's part black, when Martin Luther King was black, when Obama is part black, the first colored person of color who made it to be a president was a mulatto, and he's around my height and doesn't look that much different than I do. He looks like a much inferior version of me. Okay, but yet they reject me for these psychopaths who are racist, who encourage people to date based on money, when white people are said to have much, much more generational wealth than black people. Okay, for example, for those of you who don't understand that that's a racist, being a gold digger is racist. If someone was to say that a female was to say that she only dates guys with blonde hair and blue eyes, okay, but it doesn't matter what race they are, you would say that's racist, because the vast majority of people with blonde hair and blue eyes, especially naturally so, are white people. Okay, so that's racist, right? So there might be a black guy, might be two black guys on the planet that fit the description or something, I don't know, okay, but you get what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? That's racist. And so it is when you know that the vast majority of people with money are not black. And black people are like the poorest group in America. So if you're a gold digger, you're basically saying fuck you to black people. And you know that they killed the black people's leaders to prevent them from getting on their feet, okay? Because Martin Luther King, some of his arguments were financial, about throwing money in together so black people can get on their feet. They prevented black people from getting on their feet. The Klan used to kill black business owners and take their businesses and stuff like this. Okay? So again, I had to stop the video. I was being so heavily fumed. So the Klan used to kill black people and take their businesses. Okay? And to this day, we still see this kind of, if you're not on board with white supremacy, white LGBT and Jewish supremacy, you're basically getting rolled over. Okay? So it is sick to be a gold digger, right? The main message of the Bible is you should be willing to die for God in the divine order, right? Jesus is depicted on a cross. We see paintings of Christians in the lion's den, right? And, you know, like, so to speak, right? Where they're in the Colosseum in Rome and they're being fed to lions. They're being crucified. You know, they're being tortured. It's saying to be a Christian, you have to be willing to endure this. The opposition view is be a gold digger, right? The Bible says you cannot serve God and money. Okay, you cannot serve two masters. And there, when you have no viable counterargument, it's like if the Bible says don't eat babies, and you say, well, I'm not a Christian, you should get flogged to death. If the Bible says money is evil and you have no viable counterargument, you say, I'm not a Christian, you should be flogged to death. I'm not telling people to flog people to death. I'm helping them understand how serious their lack of judgment is. Their judgment is so fucking bad that 3 million children starve to death a year because they date according to the social norms that creates that global situation. Okay? 1 in 4 little girls are molested, 1 in 9 little boys. Okay? That's how bad their judgment is. And they say stupid shit like, that's not the same thing. You know, that's like someone holding down a little kid to get raped. And they're like, well, I'm not raping him. It's not the same thing. You're like, you may as well be raping him. It's not the same thing. But yes, what you're doing is still extremely fucking wrong. And if your family doesn't have the heart or the spine, you know, if your community, your church leaders, the people you look up to, you know, it's how much more clear cut is it that you should rally and obey God through me? Your cultures have failed you. Your families have failed you. You have failed yourself. Your friends have failed you. You listen to people like Anna Arcana, you know, who talk about being a gold digger is a good thing. Okay, you need to grow the fuck up. Okay? You need to grow up and rally and obey God through me. And this has everything to do with the Uvalde shootings and all this stuff. You think that person, you know, was someone who listened to me and pledged allegiance to me? You know, they were the direct output of American cultures. You know, they talk about that these are ritual American child sacrifice is what a news anchor who talks bad about conspiracy theorists said. You know, they call this like a ritual murders, these mass shootings. Okay? Why? Because the expected output of America, which is sort of a ritual madness state, okay? Dionysus, right? A young Zeus, a deity of ritual madness, religious ecstasy, right? Rape and grapes and the harvest and wine and getting people drunk and taking advantage of them and so on and so forth, okay? That's what American culture is. It is Zeus, it is Baal, it is Satan, it is Dionysus, it is Set. It is not Jesus. These people will not get together. You call evangelicals and Catholics and so on and so forth. These people don't get together for what's right. Just mere human rules, customs, and traditions, and they conform with the best of them. Right? A conservative, in popular culture at least, is a pinpointed conformist. They say with the norms that we have now, the liberals are a conformist trying to create future norms. So a little bit less when you look at the word conformity, what it means. It first and foremost means conforming to the existing norms. Okay? So when these people are conservative Christians, they're just Satanists conforming to the existing pagan norms. And historically and currently, they are racist groups. Okay? They encourage conformity to a racist system that has racist psychology, racist economics, racist social norms. Okay? You know, and just because they don't directly use the word black doesn't mean they're not racist. They're encouraging people to date in a way that throws colored people under the bus. They're encouraging people to conform and to look up to people who are subtly and otherwise racist and scientific racists. And how many conservative Christians voted for Trump and so on and so forth? Okay? And obviously liberals, okay, are basically LGBT and feminist racists. You know? Does the left embrace Royal African Falcon masculinity? Did they stand with me and say, this guy has a right to be this way? Or did they say, fuck you, we're canceling your culture? Racist as hell, because the essence of what it means to be black isn't Chris Rock. It is the Royal African Falcon top martial artist who's from the royal family of Martin Luther King's tribe. Okay? Martin Luther King didn't learn from the greatness in Martin Luther King wasn't from the Klan. It wasn't from white social norms. It was from Africa. Okay, wake up, people.